Hey, what is up? This is Jake with Exodus, and before we get into the interview with Dan Infalt, real quick, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification if you enjoyed the video. This was the third stop of this content trip. The two previous videos with the Hunting Public and Scott Buckley are now live, so be sure to check those out if you have not already. And we drive a lot and put a lot of time into these videos, so it would just mean a lot if you hit that subscribe button. And let's go ahead and cut right into the video. All right, we are live. Dan let us back at his place. We're one person short. Chad had a tornado come through his house and ripped down a branch, so he's on cleanup crew right now, but the show had to go on. Dan, thanks for letting us stop by again. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Last time we came through, after we left and got done recording, we said, well, we wish we would have talked a little bit more about trail cameras. I think at least the Beast community or the mobile run and gun community kind of maybe just look down on cameras in general, or there's just a lot of misconceptions on how you could possibly use them. I know you can't beat boots on the ground and the reps and learning how to actually hunt deer as you find sign, but cameras can definitely help you in a lot of different ways if you let them and not obviously let them negatively impact your hunting. So we're going to be talking about trail cameras, how you use them, and just some general discussion. So
Sure.
So I guess starting out, what's your thoughts on trail cameras and how you use them to either find new bucks or
Well, a trail camera is a tool. It's another tool in your toolbox to locate bucks. And just like when you go in your toolbox and you get a wrench, you don't want to get a wrench and use it as a screwdriver. There's certain ways people use trail cameras negatively, and that's why it gets a bad rap.
Yep.
But there are positive ways to use it without it impacting your hunting. The trouble is some people get addicted to the pictures and stuff, and they're out there checking cameras in primary areas too often. But what I do with trail cameras is I put them in food areas, feeding areas, and I'm accepting the nighttime pictures. I just want to know there's a kingpin there.
Mm-hmm.
My scouting will kill him.
Yep.
But I want to know he's there. Now, when I take a camera and I push it into like the edge of a bedding area or something, is when it's the email type, which you guys are in development,
yep,
right?
the render, by the time this airs, we should be shipping them. So
Right. And I got one of those out right now, and I put it in a bedroom from a buck I've been hunting for 2 years, and I got pictures of him right after we put the camera up, right in front of it. So I'm happy he's back, but I couldn't do that with a regular camera because now, see, he disappeared. And that's because he smelt me on the camera and smelt that I was there. But give it a few days now, and he'll come back and then start getting back used to it. But I'm not going in there and checking it constantly. But I got a small farm down the road that I hunt with my friend Dave. And we're running your cameras on there this year. And what we do is we put them on the food plots. And when we're in there and we're going past, we pull a card and put a card in. But otherwise, we kind of leave them alone, and we don't put them where we're hunting. And I think that's key. I think a lot of guys are just pushing that envelope because they want to get a picture or they want to put it in front of their tree stand and then get all these pictures and say, okay, this is the one I'm hunting, and give them cool names and stuff and say he's right under my stand, but they're spooking the deer away. It's the same thing as hunting that stand if you're in there checking that camera.
that makes sense. I'm guilty of doing that. I'm guilty of doing that.
We all were at some point in time, but you learn some lessons.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you're going in and checking it, look at it is the same as going in to hunt or a sit, because you're leaving a lot of a ground scent to go in and check it.
I like
down your backpack on the ground and lift it back up.
I like to say that what's your goal here? Is it to put a big head on your wall or a big frame picture?
Yeah.
From your trail camera.
I bet you there's some people that will answer. They would rather have a picture of a big buck because that's a lot easier than obviously drawing back and killing them. But no, I think that's really, really good and makes sense. And we talked to Greg and Aaron at THP, and they had a somewhat similar strategy. Something that we talk about pretty extensively, and we did earlier this week, is are you putting cameras out and letting them soak in a bedding area or a piece of public that you don't necessarily plan on hunting this year, just to see what deer are there, what kind of pressure is on that piece of public, when are they there? Do you do anything like that?
I do throw them in spots where I'm not sure. If there's something going on here, and I'm really probably not going to sit there, and I just want to see. And sometimes I'm surprised, and sometimes it's like, well, it's a good thing I didn't sit there. But I don't put them right in bedding areas over beds, which a lot of people are doing now. Like now that we've been teaching people to hunt beds and to find them, and they find these bedding areas, they're like, oh, I could put a camera right there.
Yeah.
And at first we were looking at that, and we thought, oh, yeah, but just put it up high.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're finding is they're so sensitive in those bedding areas that they will find that camera, stare at it, and we get pictures of those bucks come into the bed, look up at the camera, and leave.
Yep.
And it's usually a few days after you put the camera in there. And then they're coming back once or twice looking at the camera and leaving again, and you're ruining the bedding area.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would prefer is putting it on the exits, like where the bucks come in and out. And even then, I would only do that with one of your
cell cameras.
Cell cams, yeah.
That makes sense. And also, all cameras are made a little bit different, but more than likely, if it's the last picture was the day picture, and now he comes in, or whatever, and then it switches to a night picture, that IR filter drops at one point from day to night and then night to day, and that's just a slight as that IR filter is dropping in the majority of cameras, unless it's a dual lens camera. So, I mean, that makes total sense. That more than likely.
Think about a deer's reaction to scent. If you're ever walking in on a game trail, like the paths they manicure for you to go onto public land, who hasn't been walking up one of those and they see a deer filter across and they just step to the side and watch them, and they don't really, they act nonchalant, just walk across the trail, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though 10 people a day walk up and down that trail, right? It's because they expect human scent there. Now, you can get away with cameras where they expect human scent. And a lot of my cameras, like in the conservancy I hunt, I put them right along the hiking trail and then lock them because there the deer will put up with me completely. And I get them where they may have cross trails. But as soon as I start getting 40, 50 yards off that trail towards the bedding area, then they freak out about the scent. So placement is key.
Yeah, so from what I'm drawing there is put it where you can get away with checking it when you need to, per se, and don't push the envelope too much. Obviously, most people that we talk to that are successful, that kill big deer while using cameras in a positive way, is they're usually getting night pictures of them, and then they are correlating it to bedding or going in, finding sign, and setting up. And then the people who aren't, like myself, they're trying to get pictures in the daylight, and then they should be hunting there instead of running the camera there, and vice versa. So I think that's a pretty key point made there. Definitely. So how has your summer been going? I know we talked a little bit off air. Have you had any time to go out and scout and find some new deer for this upcoming fall?
Yes, I have. It's a little crazy for me with the tree stand stick company coming up and my regular job and hunting beasts and all that stuff. It's like I got 3 full-time jobs and not enough time to hunt. I think I got to end one of them, like my regular job. But hopefully my boss doesn't watch this. But I have gotten out a little bit. I have been locating some bucks. I've got one real big one on camera. He's actually gone downhill. I've seen him this is the 3rd year now that I've been watching him. But he's in a very, very remote area. You got to go through real deep water to get back there. And there's just a couple of trees you can hunt. Otherwise, everything is cattails and underwater. And he's got a weird rack from what I can see in the pictures. It looks like he's got like 16-inch, maybe even bigger than that, G2s.
Wow.
But then his G3s drop back down to like 6 inches. So it almost looks odd because the tines are like that and then this, But he's only got 4 on the right side. Maybe he's still got 5 on the left. I don't know. But he's definitely going downhill from what he was in the past. But
you feel pretty confident you'll catch up with him this fall, or is it tough to say?
You know what? I'll probably have a run-in with him, but killing him is going to be tough. I like the challenge, though. I mean, when you only got so much to work with, it's hard. And there's multiple spots he beds in a close proximity, and how I come in there is going to be touchy. So I'm letting that camera do the work for me, email me pictures, and figuring out which direction of travel he's got going on, and from that, figuring out which side he's bedding on, and and how I got to come in there. I either have to go in 1.5 miles through nasty, or I got to go in 3 miles through nasty based on the wind. And but I'm going to let the timing be based on that camera. If he's not showing up on camera, I'm not going in there and burning the spot. So it's kind of a cool setup, but who knows what will happen with it. I've always got multiple targets. I mean, there's another buck that I've been getting glimpses of for a couple of years. It's probably in the 190s, but another almost impossible spot to hunt. But I'm going to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and there's always a few that I was looking at last year, and you know, but seeing a lot of new ones. But a lot of the new ones are in the 140, 150 range. Not that I wouldn't shoot that, but when I got really big ones around, I'm going to try and target those.
Yeah, that makes sense. I tell you what, driving 3.5 hours north and compared to Iowa, and just when people think Iowa, they think flat, and it's actually quite a bit of terrain difference, rolling hills. And actually, the further north we got, the flatter it gets and the more marshy it gets. And it's interesting, too, of hunting marshes versus different pieces of Iowa, and it looks tough up here with those marshes and swamps that we're driving by, and walking through a mile and a half of swamp. That's a trek. Also, I got my notes here on my phone. What are some of the strategies that you're placing right now, late August, early September, for trail cameras? Are you leaving your cameras out right now and seeing what you find out here in the next couple weeks?
Well, right now I'm on food sources and route to travel to food sources. And I'm going to probably shift here pretty soon, as the acorns are going to be coming down pretty soon, and shift over to oak flats and stuff. But my whole strategy isn't to find a spot to kill a deer. It's find a deer to kill.
Yeah.
All I got to know is he's in the woods. So I'm really looking for those nighttime pictures. I'm trying to get them on camera in places where they'll accept human scent, and even if they don't, I'm not near where I'm going to hunt them. But now I know they're in the woods.
That makes sense.
And then all I have to do is fall back on my my scouting, my understanding of the area, the terrain, and actually hunt them down. So the cameras aren't hunting them, I am.
Yeah. So some of those two big ones that you know of right now, that you're getting pictures right now, are those day or night right now?
Oh, daytime.
Those are daytime.
But that's the big one is on the cell camera. Yeah, that's 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
He's coming.
Do you see most of those bucks stick around pretty close throughout the year until the rut comes in, or
that deer's in there all the time.
The time?
Yeah. You know, some of these swamps and marshes, these really big places, it's kind of odd, and a lot of people don't get it, but you'll find good bucks throughout the whole swamp, the whole marshes. But there's little key spots that hold the mature ones. And it's just about every swamp I find has 1 or 2 little spots that have all the big bucks, and that are there in daylight.
Yeah.
And it's usually someplace that's either so remote and hard to get to that nobody goes out there, or it's overlooked because it's to the side. But you got to be able to get past all the other deer and all the other sign to find those spots. You know, and then for me, if I'm not familiar with an area, I'm going in there and I'm dropping some cameras and or glassing. And in a lot of cases, those real remote areas, I can't glass. I either have to run across that buck physically hunting, or see big sign that makes me curious to want to go back, or I have to have a camera out there and get a picture. So the cameras help a lot with those remote areas.
Got it. And you think the main factor in that is just that they're overlooked spots and the bucks feel safe, they don't get disturbed there, versus the other 95-98% of the parcel? You
know, I don't think that the bucks understand one spot being safer than another. What I think they do understand is they don't smell people and they don't smell coyotes. You know, a lot of the areas I find the big bucks around here are surrounded by water, the mature ones. They'll get up on these little humps out in water because coyotes don't go out there, people don't go out there, and they're just undisturbed.
Makes sense, and I assume they probably see the majority of the way. Or is it pretty on those humps? Can they see all the way around, or is it usually
most of that stuff in the swamps? Most of that stuff is they can't see 2
6
feet.
foot high. Okay.
You know.
Yeah, and they can't be seen either, I guess,
right.
At that point. That makes sense.
They're basing their beds on sound. They're gonna hear you approaching.
Yeah, because nothing can make it to the swamp without making noise with that much foliage and everything. So I want to ask, I know I touched on the annual data, but have you seen, or where you have had cameras on public or even private up the road, are you seeing the deer doing the same things year after year, or even particular bucks doing the same thing year after year?
Absolutely. There's been plenty of bucks that come into the area for a short period of time, and you don't get them, and you can bet the bank on the next year at the same time frame he's going to be there if he survives.
Yeah.
One of my biggest ones in this marsh right here. The biggest buck I ever shot in this marsh. Well, I take that back. Maybe not, but one of the bigger ones. That buck was on a routine where we're in rut. He would come out of the preserve across the street and come into the marsh and hole up in this buck bedding area that's adjacent to a doe bedding area and monitor the does. And I keyed in on that, and then I started watching his rub lines. And when they opened up, I went in for the kill and killed that thing right where he was the year before, same time frame.
How old do you think that deer was? Just curious.
I think he was probably in about the six-year-old range.
Got it.
That's a guess, though.
Yeah, got it. So, is that something that you keep in mind throughout the year, or do you have like a mental Rolodex of maybe bucks you didn't catch up with last year, but you had them on camera in this particular area, and they don't spend much time there, and you know, hypothetically, they'll be there in the next 48 hours. Do you keep track, or is there a mental, like, do you have a mental Rolodex of for this upcoming year, these are some bucks that came through. I'm hoping they show up again this year, this time, if you haven't caught up with one of the other two.
Yeah, there's a couple that I'm thinking about, particular time frames based on when I've seen them the last year or the last 2 years that I'm going to be looking for. You know, sometimes you don't see them again, but you're right often enough that it's worth checking, and at the same time frame.
Yeah.
You know, and the key is the timing. If you start going in there early and stuff, and get your scent in there and booger up other deer, or even if that deer is around and just starting, but he's a little nocturnal in the area and catches wind that you're there, then you have problems. But hitting that timing right so you're not disturbing the area is key too.
That makes sense. Trying to think here. Anything else you'd like to cover as far as, or any other major pillars that fall under the category of trail cameras that come to mind that we haven't discussed? I think the thing is, a lot of the successful people say a lot of the same things. There isn't much variation. A lot of them have the same overall concept. Obviously, everyone has their own style to how they do it. But is there anything that we haven't covered that comes to mind when you think of trail cameras?
Not really. The only thing I would really caution of is just the overdoing it, like we said before. I mean, really, I think people just don't get the checking it too much. I like your concept of putting them out and soaking them and learning something and using it as an education tool. But they got to stay away from that, using it as a kill tool.
Yeah.
You know, occasionally it falls in place where you got it in a nighttime spot and a buck starts showing up in daylight and he ignores your scent and you're able to kill him because of that. But that's not the norm. I mean, I've done that myself where you got one over a food plot and the thing starts coming in daylight, even though you're checking it and you're like, well, if you're going to be stupid, I'm going to kill you for it. But generally, you just got to keep them away from the kill spots.
Is there any ways to minimize your scent as you're checking cameras, in your opinion?
In my opinion, no. In my opinion, they will know you're there. And if you don't believe that, just watch your pictures. What I see is you put a camera out, and it doesn't matter how much I try to keep clean or what I do. I put the camera out, and I'll get a picture of the buck right away. And then the pictures will you get a picture or two for a day or two, and then it'll get dead for about 20 days or so, and all of a sudden it'll pick back up. And that's when your scent starts to wear off, or they start to get used to it or whatever.
And then about that 20 day, it's been 3 weeks since I checked my camera. You go in, you check it, he was just right there, and then the cycle continues in that sense. Yeah, I think everyone has fallen into that. No, I think that's really good. We opened up some Q&A. We got some random questions, and then we can also maybe talk about a couple different hunting stories too. But before we do that, is there any deer that come into mind that trail camera specifically helped you that come to mind right away?
There's one in Iowa that I had a trail camera that I picked a deer up on daylight on, and I just went and sat over the camera and shot. But most of them, it's not a right away thing. It's I get the intel he's there, and then I go into cat and mouse game, and I kill him a month down the road. Or a couple weeks down the road. But what the camera's doing is telling me he's there. It's usually not a quick thing. You know, a lot of the bigger bucks I got, I do have trail cam pics of them before I shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the day before like some people would think.
Yeah.
It gave me the intel, so now I'm hunting in the right area.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. I think that's the big key. And I think that's probably just the biggest misconception or, missing link for the majority of people that rely on them too.
And a lot of guys that love the trail cameras are your guys with the private land, and they're managing their land and stuff. And those are probably your biggest customers.
Mm-hmm.
But really, guys like me need it more because I'm spread out so thin.
Yeah.
So I got to know what's going on, in different places. And you got to remember, too, when I'm hunting public land like this, I think a lot of people think I'm in the greatest area in the world because of the bucks I shoot. But really, these public lands that I'm hunting don't always have a big buck on them. So I got to go out and find a buck to hunt because there is a lot of pressure here. So I'm spreading myself out trying to find a buck, and the cameras are a tool to do that. Well, those guys on that private land, they're going to hunt there regardless of what they get on that camera. I got to go find a buck. So actually the public land guys need those cameras even more, even though those probably aren't your strongest customers.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any specific tips that you suggest for people who do run cameras on trail cameras? Are you doing anything to try to keep them out of sight? Are you hanging them up high, low? Or are you just putting them there and trusting that no one messes with them? Or
I like to put them up high, but and aim them down, and they don't get noticed as much.
Mm-hmm.
When I started doing that, nobody did it. Now a lot of people do it.
Yeah, now it's almost the norm to
Right.
be looking up.
We released that in that Marsh Bucks video, that was 15, 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And everybody was like, what? You're climbing a tree to put a camera up there? But now everybody does it.
Yeah.
But the one downfall to that is it can fool you. I've gotten some pictures of bucks where I really don't think they're that big. And then you see them later, and you're like, holy crap. And here I was wasting my time going after something else because it makes the tines look shorter, and, from that downward angle, where you really get a good view on it straight on if you can camouflage it in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've also seen the negative effect to where they look real big when they're up and then they're walking away, and then if it's pitched just right. But no, that's definitely.
You got to make us some custom cameras that are like in a bird feeder, or a bird house, or behind a sign with a peek hole.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. That's the next evolution because everyone's gonna be looking up now.
Right,
everyone's saying is hang them high. Everyone's gonna look high, but
I've had the ones hung high stolen too. I mean,
yeah. I think I'm sure. I mean, this is a high hunter density area. You can just tell, and I imagine that with more people, there's more scumbags that would steal cameras, unfortunately. But let's dive into some of the Q&A. So here's one from Byron Horton. He asked, as a public land hunter in the evolution stage who's starting to kill some better bucks on a consistent basis, what areas or concepts or tactics do you feel are important that can take a guy from good to a top-level hunter? So someone who's starting to kill some deer, starting to figure out how to go set up and kill a deer, but how do you take it to that next level?
Well, the one thing I see with guys like that is there's an evolution of hunting. And at first, a guy wants to shoot a deer. So he goes out, he shoots a doe or a small buck or whatever. And then he wants to shoot a buck. So he starts working on shooting a buck. And then guy like, oh, I want to shoot a lot of bucks. So he starts shooting bucks all over the place, as many as he can. And then he starts evolving into the guy who wants to shoot bigger bucks. And what happens is they get into this range class where they start shooting 2- and 3-year-old bucks. And they start getting good at it. And there they get stagnant and they stay there. And the reason is that's a whole different animal than hunting a 4-, 5-, or 6-year-old buck. It's the difference of hunting squirrels versus pheasants. You have to hunt for those mature bucks to get mature bucks. And that doesn't mean you have to abandon your 2- and 3-year-olds. You can hunt. You'll kill those by hunting mature bucks, like I do. I mean, I'll shoot a nice 2- or 3-year-old buck if it comes by, and I don't have something really big in the crosshairs. But I'm still making sure I'm set up for big bucks because I'm not going to kill one if I'm not hunting them. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just keep hunting. I'm just going to keep killing those 2- and 3-year-olds over and over and over again unless I specifically target mature bucks. And that's what's going to put you up there in that next level. And to do that, you're going to be seeking out those overlooked spots that we're talking about. You're going to be seeking out the big buck sign. And if you're not finding it, you don't just say, well, he's here somewhere. No, go find it. Mm-hmm. I'm killing big bucks because I'm going to places that have sign of big bucks. I've seen a big buck, I've heard about a big buck, or I've gotten a picture of a big buck, and that's why I'm killing them.
So I guess the advice boils down to try to find a big buck. It's done.
It really does. I mean, you can't. Most guys want to learn a property and they keep hunting that property, whether it's a big public property, whether it's a private property, or what. Where I'm going to wherever the deer are, and not only is that putting me on the big bucks, it's also making me a better hunter because I'm learning how to deal with new terrains all the time. I'm learning how to deal with whatever's thrown at me. Kind of like that public land challenge where we go out there and just try something we've never been at before and go in there and challenge ourselves to get it done. I like that, you know.
Any predictions for this year? I know last year was super fun to watch. You guys up in Minnesota. You guys are headed to Michigan this year. Any personal predictions, group predictions? We asked prior what their predictions were. So we'll ask you the same question. What are your predictions personally or for the group? And a tough time.
You know, I think we're all going to struggle a little bit. I think some of the guys might lower their standards a little bit for, say, maybe 2-year-olds or something. I think if anybody's going to come out ahead, it's probably going to be Joe, because we're going to get on some sign, and he'll find some way to weasel around me and get it done.
Is that what happened last year, roughly, or
no? But it's kind of the draw of the cards.
Yeah.
That was our next evolution of a spot to go to, and it was Joe's turn, and we both felt that was going to be the payoff.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, we were following the sign back there, and it was cool, and actually, Joe was so excited about that buck. I'm much happier he shot it than if I would have shot it myself. That was a really cool thing. I mean, he was ecstatic over that, and I was loving it.
Yeah.
I mean, sitting there with Teddy in the tree, and I get the text that he just shot it. I'm like, Teddy, he just shot the buck. Teddy's like, what? I'm like, you're getting your gum, guy.
Yeah. That's funny. And that's when you had the flip phone, right?
Yep.
And now you don't have a flip phone anymore, right?
No, I got a smartphone. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it, but
Have you used Onyx or satellite maps yet with it?
Yeah, I put Onyx on it right away, and first day I had it, I cracked the screen, of course.
It's easy to do.
And you know what? I mean, I'm just not used to stuff like that. And so when I got the thing, I'm like, they're like, these are the phones you can get, right? So they're like, you got these little ones here, and you got this giant one. Oh, well, give me the giant one. Right? Now, how do you put that in your pocket or anything, right? So yesterday I come home from work, and I always got it hanging off my side, and I'm going around the yard doing chores, feeding her animals and stuff, and I come in the house, and I'm on the computer editing some video and stuff, and I got to call somebody. I'm like, where the hell's my phone? So I started looking all over, but I can't find a thing. So I tell her, call my phone. And it's not ringing anywhere in the house. So I'm like, maybe I dropped it out by the animals. So I come out here. I'm about to give up, and I'm like, where could I have gone? I'm like, I did walk over by the garbage can. I go over by the garbage can, and it's ringing. It's down in the bottom of the garbage can in the garbage. I have no idea how. Maybe when I picked up a garbage bag, it hooked onto it, or
maybe.
I have no idea, but I almost threw it out.
Yeah. A raccoon stole.
It could be. Could be.
Yeah, that's funny. So I guess what are your standards for that public land challenge? Do you have anything in mind or a particular buck class or age?
With me, with my standards and my goals are always shifting, even during the season.
Yep.
You kind of laugh at guys that say, I'm only shooting a 5-year-old or older. What if you don't have one in your area? You're just not going to hunt that year? I mean, I'm okay with that, but I mean, are you really not going to hunt, or are you going to shoot a 3-year-old and say it's 5? I don't know, but anywho, my goals change based on what I have available to hunt, and if I think I can kill it, if I think I got a good shot at it. I've passed 160-inch deer because I know there's a giant in the area, and I've shot 110-inch buck that I really like. So my goals change a lot. And I think when I get to Michigan, I think my goal is going to start out low. I think if I could shoot a nice 2-year-old, a respectable buck on the public land there, I'd be happy. But if I get in there and I find sign and stuff, I might up that a little bit.
That's fair. No, I think everyone's excited to watch it. You got a heck of a camp in there. I think a lot of
cool.
varied opinions and everything, so that'd be fun.
One thing is a lot of guys think that's kind of a pecker measuring contest, and that you shouldn't have contests. It's not really a contest.
Yeah.
We're challenging ourselves, and everybody else is lucky enough to watch how we do it.
Yeah.
And you're getting to watch guys that get it done on a regular basis, and you're getting to learn how they go about getting stuck in a challenge like that. For me, I could care less if John Eberhard or Aaron shoots a bigger buck than me. As a matter of fact, I slap them on the back and say, hey, and what people don't see in that is a lot of times, we're moving around, we'll give each other advice while we're at the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a challenge against each other. We're challenging ourselves. So we're going to go in there and we're going to, try to figure something out and hunt it down, but it's really my own hunt that I'm worried about, mine and Joe's.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure that, the two of us have a good hunt. We go in there and you're going to see how we go about going out of state, going to a new area, figuring it out and hunting something down and killing it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'd rather it was probably Kansas or Iowa.
Yeah, right.
But it is going to be fun to do it there, and everybody was saying, oh, you can't do that in Michigan. So maybe we can't. Pretty likely we won't. But let's go give it a shot.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see how it works.
That group of killers, something's going to die. Something's going to die that week. I don't know who or what. Something's dying. We look forward to watching that, and we enjoyed watching that last year as well. But another follow-up question from Byron. It was kind of a twofold question, I guess. But what are some common failures or something that holds those types of hunters back from progressing? So you talked about making sure you go find those bucks. I assume your answer, not to put words in your mouth, but is they just get comfortable killing those 2 or 3 year olds and they just don't have the desire to do so?
Well, the biggest failure probably is the lack of confidence. I think guys that aren't getting it done on a regular basis don't believe in themselves. And I don't know if there's a lot you can do about that, but just keep trying and working at it. But it's almost like you got to kill some big bucks to believe in it. But I think what really gets me out there and makes me, at 52 years old, wade through a swamp 2 miles in pitch black is the fact that I believe I'm going to kill that buck. And that's what gets me out there. And I think on the same note, getting those trail cam pictures, glassing that buck, seeing that big sign helps build that confidence. Yeah. So a lot of scouting will help you.
Yeah.
Not only that, but the more scouting, the more you're going to be into stuff. And there's a rule I have: 3 times the scouting to the hunting. So scout, hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're hunt, scouting, you're not going to have the action I'm having.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather, if I go into an area and I don't have confidence in it, I won't hunt there. I'll just walk around with my bow and scout.
Mm-hmm.
And I do that quite often. I can't bring myself to hunting in a spot I don't believe in. So a lot of times I'll just pick up the bow and go walking and find something. But you got to keep scouting. You got to get on to big bucks to kill big bucks. You got to keep moving. Another big mistake, and maybe the biggest one, is they just keep hunting those same trees over and over again where they've had success. And I did the stats recently on my top 10 bucks, and I think 8. Yeah, I'm going off memory here, but they are posted. I think it was 8 out of 10 of them were shot the very first time I hunted a tree, and the other 2 were the first time that year.
Interesting.
But I hunt trees I've hunted before a lot. But yet the giants, come like that. And then when you get to that next tier down, like we were talking before, moving up from them 2 3-year-olds to the bigger ones, it's the total opposite. Those 2 3-year-olds I kill out of the same trees over and over and over again. You go to that same bed near that same spot, a nice buck's going to come out and you can kill it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I just keep going to that tree killing a buck every year, I'll never kill those giants. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, to get those outliers, you got to do something a little bit different.
Right, you got to think outside of the box to get the giants. You got to put up your mind that that's what you want to hunt. And that doesn't mean you have to stop killing nice bucks and just shoot monsters.
Yeah.
But you have to hunt those monsters to kill monsters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's twofold of having the confidence. You have to do the scouting. You have to do the work, I think, to feel confident going in and doing that. Or maybe just slightly delusional as well.
Right. I've never been accused of being sane.
That's great. Another question from Death Row by Bo on Instagram. He said, when deer change from feeding patterns to breeding, what is your preferred camera location? So I guess where are you putting the cameras during the rut when I guess those traditional feeding patterns change?
I would have them by doe bedding, or on travel routes. Travel routes are good, but travel routes, sometimes you can get those ones that are going for long distances. Most of the mature bucks I shoot during rut are coming off of buck bedding areas that are adjacent to doe bedding areas. They seem to hole up in them. And that's something I came into just not too long ago, like in the last 4 or 5 years, as I started learning that bucks have specific, mature bucks have specific rut beds where they're not running around with those other bucks like crazy chasing. That's not to say they don't get up and wander too. I mean, you could look at telemetry and see that, but you also see that they lock up in spots. And what I'm finding is you find these bedding areas that there ain't much of a bed, and you can hardly see it, but all the trees around it are rubbed, and they're like tore up like crazy. So you know that that buck spent a short time period bedding there, but was very agitated to rub all those trees. And then I'm finding that those spots are generally looking at the like the exit from a doe bedding area, or they're just downwind of it. And we started hunting those. We've been having a lot of action watching those bucks. They're holing up next to those does because, like we know, those mature bucks don't want to wander around in daylight, but they still want to be in on the breeding. So they're guarding their does from the younger bucks.
Roughly, what are some dates for the Midwest where you have been seeing them spend the most time in those rut beds?
For me, it's been probably that last week of October, first week of November. And you get into the second week of November, they get a little bit more. It still works, but they get a little more unpredictable. Where they're predictable and still sticking to patterns pretty much in that early rut.
Okay. No, I think that's good. We had some more questions, but those are some of the better ones. We had some pretty funny questions, but I think that's good. I think we covered some solid information on trail cameras and kind of reiterated and got your perspective on how you use them and how to use them for the better and not to hang that 8x10 above the fireplace.
Right.
So we can't thank you enough for sitting down with us, and we may record another one, but thank you so much. We will link to the Hunting Beast in your communities in the description if anyone wants to track you down.
Okay, cool.